Hello everyone, it's Dio from Firm Gaming, bringing you another World of Warcraft video. Today we're going to be talking about the 4 lieutenants that are in the Mythic Plus dungeons. This is of course on any Mythic Plus key that is 10 plus. So these are the 4 lieutenants like Soggodon The Breaker, Incinerator Arkolath, Oros Coldheart, and Executioner Varruth. So you'll encounter these throughout the dungeon. You do not have to kill them, but if you do not kill them, then the end boss of the dungeon gains their aura. So I'll go into the specific details of them shortly. And basically, once you kill them, though, an Anima Power drops, which is similar to Torghast, and then you can pick it up. And again, I'll go through those at the end as well. So let's get into it. The first lieutenant that we're going to talk about is Incinerator Arkolath. So he is the one that is similar to Pride. So he inflicts fire damage to all players every 3 seconds. So again, this is just like Pride was. It does AoE damage to the party. He will also put a debuff on a couple party members that is dispellable. And lastly, he does a cast. Basically, you have to get out of the area. So, and also he casts Inferno. So there's his Scorching Blast. So just don't stand in that. Otherwise, you'll take a lot of damage. He puts debuffs on several players. Just start dispelling. Inferno has to be cast. It does a huge burst of damage to the entire group. And so we do test it here to see how much damage it does. So near the end here, so this is a 12. So again, we're just dispelling and not standing in the Scorching Blast. And then he's going to cast Inferno here, right here. We're going to see how much damage it does. And boom. So the rogue almost dies. I take about 70% damage, and the mage just dies there as well. Or sorry, it was a hunter. He just got one shot by the blast. So that obviously needs to kick. This is a 12 and it did that much damage. So on a 15 or higher, it will be a group white mechanic. So just make sure that you're kicking Inferno and dispelling as you go and you'll be fine. The second lieutenant that we're going to cover is Soggodon The Breaker. So he is what I call the tank breaker. He hits for a lot of damage, and he also has another couple fun abilities. So we're just going to pull him here. So he has a root mechanic. So there's Crash. So that's the one for the tank to worry about. On higher keys, he'll hit a lot harder. Seismic Wave is a little AoE burst there. And then he does this where he binds you and everybody is rooted into that massive smash area and you have to get out. There's 2 different ways to get out if you have a movement impairing like release. So like a human can use their ability. Freedom will get you out as well. Or what's going to happen is when you get binded, there are binding miseries that spawn and you have to DPS them down in order to free yourself. So I'll show it here just in a second. Again, there's another crash. So basically that's all there is to it. He hits the tank pretty hard. He has that seismic wave, which does a little bit of AoE damage. And then there is the bindings that you have to DPS down in order to free yourself. So as you can see here, these are the bindings that I'm talking about. There is one per each player that is rooted. So you just have to target them, DPS them down, and then you'll be free to run out from the circle. And that's all you have to do. The third lieutenant is Oros Coldheart. He is pretty straightforward. He does one of the more AoE damages. I felt his it can be a little bit worse than the one that is like Pride. So basically he has a few different abilities. He puts that blizzard on top of party member there. As you can see, it's on our hunter in the back. Basically, do not stand in that. It does a fair bit of damage, so you just got to keep them up. And then he also does these little blizzardy type things on the ground. Just don't stand in them. He has an aura where you are 50% slowed. So that's a little bit of one of the mechanics about him. So just dodge those as best as possible. He also has this Frost Lance where he just points in a certain direction and casts a spell. It does massive amounts of damage and has a knockback. For experimental purposes here, we decided that we're going to eat this. So the rogue is going to take this shot. So it did about 90% damage and knocked him back. So he had to leap back here to safety. So again, this is on a 12 and it did about 90% of his health. On a higher key, like a 15, it would most likely one-shot him. And yeah, so that's basically all it is. Don't stand in the little blizzard thing. Don't stack on the one party members that's been selected by it. Dodge the little circles. And then don't stand in front of the Frost Lance. The last lieutenant is Executioner Varruth. So he has an aura which reduces all healing by on players by 50%. He's, I believe, the most challenging one out of the lieutenants, just because of he has a couple different mechanics. He has a fear ability that he will cast, and it's in the direction that he's facing. So he picks a random party member and starts to cast it at that party member. So there's the wave of terror, and everybody in front of him got feared. So it feared two people there. It is dispellable, which is good. And so he also puts a bleed on somebody as well. So as you can see here, he just casts Carnage, and it put a dot on the rogue, so that inflicts damage every second. So you just got to keep them topped up. And you just gotta watch your positioning, because when he turns to cast his fear, he picks a random party member, and it's everybody that's in front of him in that cone. So you just gotta watch who he's targeting and moving accordingly. In a different dungeon that I was in, he turned quickly, and he actually got four of us. And the reason that he's so dangerous is because the fear can, if you can't get the quick dispel, it can run you into opposing trash and just cause you to pull more than you're anticipating, and that can be problematic. The dot that he puts on a party member is boppable. The damage is not too bad. It would probably be a little bit tougher on higher keys, where you might want to use a bop or other cooldowns in order to relieve the pressure on a party member. But on the 12 here, it wasn't too bad. We're just going to jump onto Wowhead here just to go over the different Anima powers that drop from these lieutenants. So this was the easiest way to show it. I was going to show a clip in the actual video from the runs we did, but I thought this would just be the easiest way. So there's, of course, the Anima powers are specific to your role, not to your character. So there's certain ones for the DPS, tank, and the healer. It doesn't change whether you're a shaman, paladin, or anything like that. It's just to your role and not to your character, the class that you are. So there's a few different ones for the different lieutenants, if you will. Some of them overlap a little bit, but there are the variety. So for the DPS, the possible Anima powers for Soggodon The Breaker. So you have the Stone Ward, so it gives you a shield for 20% of your maximum health. This absorb refreshes every 45 seconds. This is the same for all of the different roles here as an option. We have Dripping Fang, which gain 5% leech, increasing up to 25% based on your missing health. And then lastly, we have Tiny Dancing Shoes. That's a fun name. Upon entering combat, you dodge 2 melee or range attacks against you. The healer also has that one as well. The tank, is a Broken Mirror. Magic damage taken is reduced by 25%. That's pretty nice. And then Dripping Fangs, so that's the leech that we just covered. The healer also gets the self-embalming kit, increases all self-healing by 75%. For the Incinerator, the champion's brand, so while above 70% health, your haste and critical strike is increased by 8%. Your highest stat is always chosen, so that is the same for everybody. For the DPS here, we have Raging Battle Axe. So damaging a target below 30% health has a high chance to hurl a battle axe at the target, and it's got a calculation for how much damage it's going to do. The third one here for the DPS is enemies that die within 40 yards bolster you, increasing your damage done by 3% for 25 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Successive stacks do not increase duration. The tank also here off the Incinerator can get Crumpling Bulwark, so your versatility is increased by 5%. Upon entering combat, your damage taken is reduced by 40% for 3 seconds. So that's a nice little buff there for the initial pull. The next one here is the Fifth Skull. While in combat, if there are 5 or more enemies within 10 yards, the skull releases a wave of shadow damage, helping you AoE down the pack, basically. For the healer, we also have Bottle of Sanguine Ichor. So this is basically if you heal a target, it has a chance to drop an Ichor around them that can heal up to 5 allies. So that's nice if you need to do some group healing and your class suffers a little bit for AoE heals. We also have Pedestal of Utter Hubris, so your haste is increased by 12% while in combat, but you burn 5% of your maximum health every 3 seconds. So that one, I guess it depends on how much you want the haste. For Oros Coldheart, we have Satchel of the Hunt, so while in combat you grant all allies within 12 yards an additional 30% movement, so that is the same for the healer there. The DPS also gets whenever you take more than 25% of maximum health from a single attack, you gain 50% increased movement speed and suffer 50% less damage. And then lastly, deal 10% increased damage to targets you successfully interrupt for 8 seconds. An incentive to kick. The tank here, deal 10% increased damage to targets you successfully interrupt. So again, that's the same ability. The Huntsman's Muzzle, when you attack a new creature, they are silenced for 4 seconds. Pendant of the Martyr, you grant 15% reduced damage against area of effect attacks to all allies. So that's pretty good. For the healer, like I said, we had the movement here from Satchel the Hunt. Portable Feed and Frost, so you eat food much faster, so that'll help you get topped up if you're low on mana. And your auto attack has a chance to stun them for 2 seconds. And this cannot attack more than once every 30 seconds. So it's just some extra CC. For Executioner Varruth, we have the Champion's Brand. So while above 70%, your haste or critical strike is increased. Your highest stat is always chosen. So that is the same as what you get off the Incinerator there. For DPS, we also have the Dagger of Necrotic Wounding. Damaging a target has a high chance to consume the target with a creeping decay. So basically, they take damage over time and it reduces any self-healing that they might be able to do. Volcanic Plumage. Damaging a target has a chance to create a gout of flame beneath them that erupts after 2.5 seconds, dealing fire damage to all enemies within 3 yards and knocking them upwards. So some AoE damage and a little bit of a CC effect. For the tank, Stygian King's Barbs. When enemies strike you in melee combat, barbs lash out from you and deal 4% of your current health and shadow damage to them. So it just helps with some tank DPS. Siegebreaker standing still increases your damage dealt by 4% every 1 second, stacking up to 3 times. Upon reaching 3 stacks, gain an additional 10% armor. And then you lose the bonus when you move. For the healer, we have Overflowing Chalice. So healing a target has a chance to generate loose mana, which can be collected to restore 6% of your maximum mana. So if you have mana issues, I recommend this one because they're just going to be little balls that show up on the ground. Just run over, pick them up. It helps you from running out of mana. Since there is no pride, healers will run into a little bit more of mana issues because we don't get that resupply of mana that pride would bring. So that is actually a fairly useful ability to pick up, in my opinion, for the healer. Last one here is Stabilizing Diamond Alemic. Sorry, terrible pronunciation. Anyways, standing still stores healing equal to 1.5% of your current health every 1 second, up to your maximum health. When you move, this energy is expended to heal the most injured player within 40 yards. So that is also pretty good if you're a healer that is able to stand still, and then you can just move and it'll pop out to instant heal a party member that's wounded. So this is our video on the 4 lieutenants that you'll encounter in Mythic Plus. I hope you've enjoyed it. As I was saying at the start of the video, you do not have to kill them in every dungeon. You can skip them if you would like. It just means that you don't get the Anima power, as well as when you get to the last boss, they will get the aura that that lieutenant has. That being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, let us know below. As always, we appreciate any likes and subscribes. We like in producing these videos for you and hope you enjoy them. And as always, you can find us on Twitch. Have a good one.